Now, the whole world is grappling with the challenges emanating from the COVID-19 pandemic. Business leaders have the daunting task of navigating this uncharted territory. Emerging as a key priority for action is the need to maintain high levels of productivity, especially with all employees required to work remotely. And success will depend largely on leadership's ability to engage remote workers and rapidly upskill their people. Well, joining us to discuss leadership in COVID-19 crisis, challenges and solutions is Biola Ojo. She is the managing partner at People Capacity Management. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Adesua, for having me. Thank you.
Great. How productive is Nigeria workspace at the moment with some employees required to work remotely?
Well, I think initially when we all found ourselves in the middle of this whole pandemic, it was a struggle. It was a big struggle for a lot of organizations to adapt. I mean, especially organizations that had issues, never had a work from home strategy or policy in place. But for organizations that had something close, it was a lot easier for them to transition immediately. You would agree with me that we have quite a number of organizations in Nigeria that had only DEX policy or strategy in place. So their employees were not even allowed to take home work. Their employees were not allowed to take home their laptops or anything. But now, I think gradually we are all getting into it. Employees are also getting used to it. We are all adapting. And I think that generally employees are also more engaged, if I'm allowed to use that. So the level of productivity has increased significantly compared to when we started, compared to March when the country had to go on lockdown.
Now, with the global crisis, one thing that is certain is the ever-changing environment. Now, how can leaders, with new regulations, social distances, how can leaders adapt to these measures so that they can have a more effective workforce?
So leaders generally, so this whole thing is more or less new to a lot of us, a lot of leaders. And so what we are seeing now is a lot of leaders are engaging their employees. They are communicating more regularly with them. They are carrying them along in the decision-making process. They are ensuring that at least their employees are safe. Safety comes first. The safety of their employees is topmost priority to a lot of leaders and HR practitioners generally in the workplace. So leaders are generally more or less trying to ensure that their employees are playing by the rules. Their employees are not just playing by the rules, they are also ensuring that they keep social distance. So if you go into a typical organization where initially they had about 15, 20 people in a small workstation, now you see that that has changed a little bit, not just a little bit, I think drastically. So organizations now have tried to adjust to this whole new, the new normal that we find ourselves.
And how easy or difficult has this process been for leaders especially? What do you think has been the greatest challenge in this learning process for all of us?
The greatest challenge, it's more or less getting their employees to trust them. One other major challenge that we also have to grapple with in this part of the world is also getting people to get used to technology, being able to use technology. And it's not just being able to use technology, also ensuring that employees are engaged. I remember when the country went on lockdown in March, initially, we all thought that it was going to be just something that would last for just a week or two. I remember telling some members, my colleagues at work, saying to them that, hey, guys, we'll be out of the office for just 2 weeks. And nobody ever envisaged or thought that it would take this long. And but we are all getting used to this whole thing, and we are learning. So one major lesson that I think leaders have learned is change is inevitable. We all have to constantly reassess our strategy. We all have to constantly reassess our position, also pay more attention to the employees that get this whole job done. So empathy, leaders are beginning to show more empathy towards their employees. And I think employees are now also beginning to put themselves in the shoes of their leaders, because we all find ourselves in this unfamiliar terrain. And the onus is not just on the leader to make things happen. The onus is also on all members of the organization to ensure that the organization is performing. Because at the end of the day, if the organization isn't performing, I mean, the leader or the employer might have no other choice than to lay off people. So we all have to get to that realization, and it's a big lesson for not just the leader and also for the employees as well.
You know, I like the fact that you mentioned empathy. Now, leaders are showing more empathy to their staff. Now, with the whole workforce almost working remotely at this point, how do you keep staff motivated? You know, how does reward and compensation come in place without physical interference in the workforce at this point?
Okay. Keeping employees engaged is, the onus actually lies on the managers, on the line managers. And this is where communication plays a big role, a major role. How you communicate with your employees now is way different from how we pre-COVID. Now your employees or your colleagues are no longer in the workplace for you to talk to them and then watch out for their body language. I mean, all those things. Now, more than ever, you have to be aware. And that's where we talk about self-awareness. So as a leader, you can't lead others, especially now, without you being aware of who you are. And it's not just about you being aware of who you are. It's also managing perception of the people that you work with. The way you would deal with an individual like me would be different from the way they might have to deal with you, Adesua, because we are two different personalities completely. And there are tools that can help managers to be able to communicate better. I mean, there are tools like Clarity 40 tool that would get them to not just understand who they are, but also help them to be aware of others' perception and also be mindful of how they pass their messages across. So constant checking helps employees to be engaged. You agree and negotiate check-in periods. So at what time? You can't be breathing down their neck all the time, and that's micromanaging. You have to be able to trust your employees enough to get the work done. And it's not just that, you also have to engage them by allowing them come up with their own ideas. Like we are in an unfamiliar terrain. Nobody knows what's going to happen the next minute. So you don't have all the answers. Leaders don't have all the answers. The managers don't have all the answers. So this is the time where you engage all your employees and you let them bring on the table all their ideas. You never know where the next brilliant idea is going to come from. And that's it.
Indeed. Biola, a lot of people, argue that labor laws in Nigeria, are almost non-existent and nobody pays much attention to it. Do you think that in this era of COVID-19, we are seeing more abuses of those labor laws and the rights of the employees in the workplace? For instance, the rights to go on leave. What are the stories you are hearing from the Nigerian workers at a time like this? Okay, so now a lot of employees are also beginning to ask questions around. The employees are now generally looking at their terms of engagement more. Gone are those days where you are offered a job and all you have to do is just append your signature to it and that's it, without you going through what the terms of engagement is. Now, employees are also beginning to look closely at their staff handbook, their HR policy, their manual, and they're also engaging legal rights lawyers to help them with some of the issues that they might experience. HR practitioners generally too, they also find themselves in an unfamiliar terrain. So in other parts of the world, you are allowed to follow some of your employees, and the government has funds to back that up. But in this part of the world, follow is new to us, and I'm sure that what HR practitioners are now beginning to look in that direction as well.
So I can give an instance of, I had a conversation with a friend who just before the COVID-19, she was offered a new job, and then she had to resign from her previous employer. And at the point when she was supposed to resume, that was when the whole nation went on lockdown. Now, the HR leader in a new organization then suddenly went quiet. They went mute for like a week or two, so she kept sending them messages. Of course, they were also trying to understand what next for them. And it took them like a month after to get back to my friend. And eventually, when they got back to her, they had to tell her that, hey, we have to look at our terms of engagement again. We have to give it a second look. And they had to renegotiate terms. Now, to her, to my friend, the question is, if I knew this was going to happen, I probably would not have left my former employer. But nobody expected this was going to happen, you know. So, but now we have to show more of empathy, and then we have to seek advice from experienced professionals, seek advice from legal practitioners, so that they can chart us in the right direction.
Correct. I think that's quite important, seeking advice from business professionals. Let's look at business continuity plans, right, for businesses. For example, if an organization gets compromised and some workers get infected with COVID-19 and, you know, your business gets to shut down, what are ways that leaders can implement their business continuity plan so that they are not at a disadvantage?
So the safety of the employee should actually be paramount in the minds of any leader, of any employer right now. If your employees, if they get infected in any way, God help you, let it not be that you do not have maybe a proper medical plan in place. I mean, you can only imagine what would happen in such instance. So right now, organizations have no other choice than for them to have a proper medical plan in place that can support their employees. And not just that, if there is actually no need for employees to be in the office physically, and there is no point having employees in the workplace. We've all come to realize now that there are so many things that we can actually achieve from the confines of our rooms, from our home. And people are being productive working from home, except that now what we're also seeing is we see a lot of people, I see a lot of people talking about, hey, Biola, I do more work working from home. In fact, now people are no longer sure if there is anything as such as work-life balance anymore. You know, so organizations and leaders have to reevaluate their position. They also have to reevaluate the way they are doing things. If there is no need for employees to be at work, if they can get the work done from home, then it's better so that your employees are not unnecessarily exposed, you know, and then you can avoid things like litigation and all that. I hope that answers your question.
Well, unfortunately, there are some businesses that must remain open and must have employees in their locations. Perhaps they could, you know, think of having alternate, you know, locations in case their business gets compromised. But I don't believe we have much time. I think we'll have to take a short break, and we'll come back with you, Biola Ojo, Managing Partner at People Capacity. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Show. Biola Ojo, Managing Partner at People Capacity Management, is still with us, talking about leadership in time of COVID-19 crisis, especially leadership in the business space. Biola, thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
We've talked about the challenges and some of the things we have learned along the way and will continue to learn. But what is the future of the Nigeria workspace, in your own opinion? Some people have said, if you look at the world over, businesses that were already digitally compliant, you know, are the ones who are rising to the occasion at a time like this, especially when you have to work remotely from home. And you've also mentioned that as a challenge, a lot of desktop businesses that we had before COVID-19. What is the future of the workspace, and what are the solutions, you know, we should be looking at?
Okay, so one thing that is definitely going to happen is things will never be the same again in the workplace. A lot of organizations would actually now see that they can achieve more even while they are working, the employees are working from home. There will be less emphasis on brick and mortar, where you must have an organization or a work office, an office proper. There would be a lot of investment in technology right now. Even SMEs would also have no other choice than for them to invest in technology. And employees also generally would now have to unlearn, learn and relearn new skills, look at new ways of doing things, and just be a bit more adaptable and flexible in the way and manner that they're doing business. So a lot of organizations will rely more on technology in getting things done. That definitely is going to change. And you get more things done from home. You get more things done from home without you necessarily having to have a physical office or a physical presence anywhere. You do more. You attend more meetings online. Trainings would go online, which is already happening. Meetings are happening online now. So there are so many things that would change, and those are some of the basic things that would change, and that has come to stay. It's come to stay.
All right. There is also the issue of uncertainty and fear that comes with the pandemic. How can leaders manage their employees so that they can thrive through this pandemic, which is an extraordinary global event for a lot of us?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of anxiety in the air. There is fear in the minds of people. There is fear in the minds of employees. There is fear even in the minds of the leaders as well, of employers as well. But the onus is on the leader to reassure all its major stakeholders. Constant communication. You let them know that you are still committed to your vision. You talk about what your strategy, you reevaluate your strategy from time to time. You let your external stakeholders, your customers, your clients know that you're still committed to delivering on your promises to them. And to your employees as well, you need to carry them along all the way. You need to inform them. You need to get ideas from them. You need to engage them. And constant reassurances from the leaders would help and go a long way. Another thing that would also help is your empathy. You have to show empathy to your employees. Those days, even when our parents are not sure of where the next meal is going to come from, you see them, they still put up a bold face. And that's what leaders have to do now. But there's nothing wrong sometimes for you to let your employees also know that, hey, we are in the same boat. There is a lot of fear, there is a lot of anxiety, but we will get through this together. And that is where collaboration comes in. Gone are those days where the leader has to be the one to take all the decisions. Now you have to involve all your team members. Everybody needs to be carried along. And then you trust them enough to allow them to get the job done.
Indeed. Well, let's take a look at what you have been doing at the presidency. In 2017, you started facilitating strategy sessions. Tell us how that has been so far, and what exactly is that?
Okay, so I was part of the strategy session that held in 2017 with the Bureau for Public Enterprise, and we were engaged to talk about how to get employees to be more productive, to get employees generally to be able to go the extra mile, put in their 101% into the job, and ensure that things begin to move smoothly. Talked about work ethics and all that. So it's been going well. You would agree with me that Nigeria of 2017 or 2015 is not the same Nigeria that we see today. People are more alive to their responsibilities, and people are now being held accountable for their actions. And that's what is going to happen generally. So there will be more demands. There will be demands on employees. There will be demands on employers to ensure that everybody live up to their own part of the deal. And that's the only way we can move forward, not just as an organization, but also as a nation generally. And that's what we've been doing, helping organizations to move from where they were to where they want to be. So we help to chart their strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, and then also put a plan or a framework in place that would help in achieving all the set out goals and objectives that they have.
Can I just ask you, from these strategy sessions that you've been having, what is the common mistakes you find Nigerian businesses making?
The very common one is lack of execution. So a lot of business leaders, they have ideas, brilliant ideas, and then they start off trying to execute some of those ideas. And along the way or along the line, they just lack following through. And that's a major thing. That is sustainability, sustaining the momentum, ensuring that they're able to follow through on some of the things that they are meant to implement. So following through is a major challenge. You see businesses, they start off well, and then along the line, they just lose it. So that's where a lot of businesses and leaders are lacking. And we need to work on that. It's not enough for you to have a good idea, but if you have a good strategy in place, but you are not also able to execute and implement and then enforce that things are being done the way you want it to be, then everything will come to naught.
All right. You have a diverse background. You were trained in the UK and you've been training these organizations. How do you engage the organizations? Just quickly.
Okay, so now we do quite a lot of, we run quite a number of webinars. We run quite a number of programs for various organizations. A lot of them we've also pushed out for individuals, resources or trainings that can help them upskill themselves, which we run online. And with our existing customers, we have meetings with them almost on a weekly basis. And we push out newsletters and that can help them, especially in the times that we find ourselves now. And one major thing that we talk about now, one major thing that is critical to the success of any organization right now is their ability to engage their employees. Communication is important right now. And for you to be able to engage your employees at the level that you want to engage them, as leaders, as managers, you need to understand yourself. We talk about self-awareness. And then we also talk about perception and diversifying our hidden potential. One other thing that we also try to push out right now is because a lot of meetings are being taken online, now is the time for organizations to invest more in team building sessions, because that one-on-one interaction is no longer there. So all you do when you go on meetings online is you just pass your message across without you necessarily engaging your employees. So now organizations need to invest more in team building sessions.
Very well.
So that they are able to connect and get the most out of their employees.
Thank you so much, Ms. Biola Ojo, for joining us on The Morning Show.